So how do you support someone in your life who may be dealing with depression? Abby is going to share with us what she's learned so far ever since she came public about her mental health struggles.
Yeah, so was it last week where I came out and just kind of broke down in the middle of a segment that I did not expect to be a full-on explanation as to where my mental health is right now. And I would say in the last week, I have been pleasantly surprised at the response I've gotten from people in my life and just how they have stepped up to want to support me. Like, I don't think anybody has ever rallied around me in the way that people have rallied since I came forth and said, I think I'm a little depressed. And I want to be clear, like, I'm not currently like in a therapy session right now where someone was like, you're depressed, we should get you on antidepressants. I've dealt with mental health struggles my entire life. And I'm in a season where I'm like, I recognize this. This reminds me of when I was depressed, an XYZ point in my life. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I know what things in my life are making me spiral into that mental health space, that it's not something I want to fix with medication. It's not really something I feel like I need to talk about. It's just kind of like I want to fix those things because I know as a correlation, it's going to help me get out of that dark space in my life. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So it's a little struggle. And I was just really pleasantly taken aback at the way people have stepped up in my life. So I came on, I talked about how, I'm just in a really tough place. Like I think the exact words I said was that I was miserable. I was also on my period. So like, let's take that with a grain of salt. And there have been moments where I've genuinely felt that way. And right now, it just kind of feels like there's really no end in sight. I'm kind of creeping closer to a place where I feel like, okay, maybe 6 months from now, I think things will be better. I think a lot of those things will be resolved. But there are so many people that DM'd me, people that came up to me in public and had heard the segment and said that, I went through the exact same thing in my life. And I think it shocked me, how common this feeling is, like how many people have gone through a season of life where they have felt depressed or just in a bad mental health space or just not in a good spot mentally, period, whether that's depression or anxiety or whatever. And the number one response that I've gotten from people in public is they just want to hug me. Like when we were out in the backpack event where we were giving away school supplies to our listeners, I feel like just so many people came up to me and just were like, just give me a hug, just give me a hug. And I think the one thing that I've taken away from the DMs and the support that I've gotten from people is that people who have experienced it before know what somebody in that space needs. And what I need and what other people need that are dealing with this is, I don't need someone to fix it. I do not want solutions. I do not want you to tell me to go talk to XYZ person. I do not want you to say, have you tried this? Have you thought about this? All you need is just someone to sit with you in it. And I've had so many friends message me and say, hey, like if you want to hang out and you just want to like sit next to each other on the couch and just watch House of the Dragon, we can do that. If you want to go for a walk, we can do that. If you just want to exist and not be alone in your apartment for the 15th day in a row, we can do that. And I think that has been the most helpful thing, because the most frustrating thing is for someone to look at you and say, I know how to fix it, and you don't. Like, everyone's journey is different. You don't have the answers for how to get me out of this unless you're a mental health professional. That's different. If you are, some random woman I ran into at Kroger, you don't have the solutions. But just having people to hold your hand and feel like when you feel like you are going to topple over at any moment, for those people to be those support beams for you has really meant the world to me over the last week or so.
So are you seeing a little more of a light at the end of the tunnel?
I think so. I think also, the hormones leveling out has been helpful as well. Yeah. I think so. And I think 30 days from now, I will feel better. Yeah. I think 2 months from now, I will feel better. But when it was all brought up last week, I really was in the thick of it. I had a really bad weekend. I had just been in a space where I really felt trapped by it. I think the best way for me to describe how I feel, and I've heard people say it feels kind of like you're underwater and everything is sort of, around you, like you're underwater and everything feels dulled. For me, I think the best word for me is to describe it as I feel trapped. I think trapped is the right word. I almost feel like a prisoner in my own body. That's kind of what it feels like. And I think that's what's really frustrating for me, is because I'm so big on personal responsibility. I've been in so many places in my life that I've been able to dig myself out of. And I'm very proud of that I'm not somebody that just like lays down and takes whatever life gives me. I feel like for the first time in my life, I feel so out of control that I do not see that person that has been able to get herself out of those situations. And that has been very defeating.
But the fact that you do know, I think that the biggest takeaway from me listening to you, and I'm very proud of you for talking about this again, by the way, is that you know it's going to get better. Like you have that mindset already that you're in a place that sucks right now, but every day you're taking a step toward it getting better. And I think that's a huge place to be in right now.
This too shall pass.
I'm just curious. I wasn't here when you did your original break, but can you share what's making you feel out of control? Because I think a lot of people might resonate with that and maybe not realize that's what's triggering their depression.
One of the things that comes to mind just in terms of like thinking about things getting better for a lot of what has really like shaken up my life is I was a Christian for a very long time in my life. And I think when you hear people talk about the Christian faith, they talk a lot about hope. And I never really understood what that meant until I think I got into this really bad mental health space, because I'm like, what is there to hope for? Like, are things going to get better? Like, what am I really, and not to get all dark because I'm not doing anything drastic about my life, but I feel like everyone has kind of felt like the whole, what's the point in living? I don't really want to live anymore. Not that I'm going to like do anything drastic, but you know, that feeling of hopelessness of like, what is this all for?
That feeling of dread.
And I think faith provides a lot of hope that there is light on the other side of things. And I think having lost that, I don't really know like what that light is, if that makes sense.
What's going to provide that light for you? Because before, your religion, your faith has always provided that light, but now you just feel like you're sitting in darkness and you don't know where that light's going to come from.
Right.
And that faith too, I'm sure was a core tenement of who you were and who you are. I mean, you were a youth group leader, right? A little bit of a parallel. I was never as religious as you, but I was pretty religious in high school. And then I sort of lost it when I got to college, when I started questioning things, and it threw me for a loop. And when you kind of go through life thinking as one thing is set in stone, this is a foundational belief, and you can always fall back on it. And then all of a sudden that foundation is not a foundation anymore. It can be very unsettling. And so I think, Kristen's right. It's beautiful that you know it's going to get better, but also give yourself some grace, because that's a big one to tangle with.
Yeah.
And it might be a lifelong thing. I still go in and out of it, but you'll find the tools. Like if I've seen one thing that you bring to this show and bring to your life, it's resilience. I've always seen you, and I know I don't know you that well. It's only been a couple of years, but anytime you have been faced with a problem or an issue, you have come up with a solution. You didn't have friends here. You created a Facebook group for women looking for other friends, and now y'all do stuff all over the city all the time. You're going to Ireland together. Like, you are the most resilient person I have met. So even if the answer isn't clear to you now and you're in the thick of it, I have full faith. I have faith in you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I'm really excited for Ireland, so I can at least disassociate for a week. So catch me out after a month. I'll be feeling like there's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel and probably a lot of Guinness.
The Bert Show.